She didn't sell her stepdaughter. She gave her away for free, to a homeless man who knocked on the door asking for food. The girl left for a house on Clover Ridge Lane, the kind of place where nothing bad could ever happen. White shutters, a porch with potted plants, a welcome mat that said, "Home Sweet Home," in faded yellow letters. People drove past it and thought, somebody happy lives there. They were wrong. Inside that house lived a 21-year-old named Sophia. And she had not been happy in a very long time. Sophia had her mother's eyes, wide, dark, and deep. The kind of eyes that noticed everything. She kept her hair pulled back because there was never time to fix it. She wore the same 3 shirts on rotation. She woke up at 5:30 every morning without an alarm because her stepmother, Diana, expected breakfast on the table by 6 o'clock. Sophia's real mother died when Sophia was 7. Her father remarried 2 years later. Then her father got sick. Then her father died too. And after the funeral, when the last relatives drove away and the house went quiet, Diana looked at Sophia for a long time, not with sadness, but with calculation. That was 4 years ago. Since then, Sophia had become something Diana didn't have a word for publicly. But privately, in the way she spoke to her, the word was clear: burden. Sophia cooked. Sophia cleaned. Sophia ran every errand. She had a college degree sitting in a folder in her drawer that Diana had never once asked about. She had applied for 3 jobs the year before. Diana had thrown away 2 of the callback letters without telling her. Sophia didn't know that yet, but she was about to find out something much worse. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late October when everything changed. The sky was flat and gray. Diana was on the couch watching a home renovation show with the volume up loud. Sophia was in the kitchen pressing a damp cloth to a burn on her wrist from the oven rack when she heard it, a knock at the door. Then a voice. Low, rough, a little tired. "Ma'am, sorry to bother you. I haven't eaten since yesterday. Anything you could spare, I'd be grateful." Diana muted the TV. She stood up slowly, smoothed her shirt, and walked to the door with the expression she always wore when she was about to enjoy herself at someone else's expense. She opened it. The man standing on the porch was maybe 26, tall, thin in the way people get when they've missed too many meals. His jacket was too big for him. His shoes had a split along the left toe. But his eyes, steady, quiet, not desperate, didn't match the rest of him. His name was Marcus. He'd been homeless for almost 3 years. Diana looked at him the way she looked at bugs she found in the kitchen. "You're young," she said. "Why aren't you working?" "I'm looking, ma'am." Hard to find something when you don't have an address. Diana made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. Then she called over her shoulder. "Sophia, come here." Sophia came out of the kitchen wiping her hands on a dish towel. She looked at the man on the porch. He looked back at her. Neither of them said anything. "Pour him some water," Diana said. Sophia went and got a glass. She brought it out and handed it to him. He took it carefully with both hands, like it was something fragile. "Thank you," he said. Not to Diana. To Sophia. Sophia nodded and started to step back inside. And then Diana said it, casually, like she was deciding what to order for lunch. "Take her." Marcus blinked. "Excuse me?" "Her." Diana pointed at Sophia. "Take her with you. She's yours. Consider it charity." The dish towel fell out of Sophia's hand. She turned to look at Diana and waited for the part where she said she was joking. Diana was not joking. "She's 21. She eats my food. She uses my water. I've been carrying her for 4 years and I'm done." Diana's voice was completely flat. "You want something from this house? Take her." I don't even have a place to sleep, Marcus said, shaking his head. Not my problem, Diana said. She looked at Sophia. And Sophia saw it then, not anger, not guilt, not even discomfort. Nothing. 4 years of nothing, finally showing its real face. Sophia walked back to her room. She stood in the doorway for a moment and looked at it, the narrow bed, the folded quilt her real mother had made, the stack of library books on the floor, the framed photo of her father on the nightstand. She picked up the photo. She set it back down. Then she pulled her backpack out from under the bed and started packing. 3 shirts, 1 pair of jeans, her college folder, the quilt, she shoved it in even though it barely fit. And 1 book, just one, The Alchemist. Her mother had read it to her before she got sick. She zipped the bag. She walked out. Marcus was still on the porch, standing there like he wasn't sure if this was real. Sophia stepped past him, down the 2 porch steps, and started walking toward the end of the driveway. He followed behind her. Diana closed the door. They heard the lock click. Neither of them spoke for the first 10 minutes. They walked side by side down Clover Ridge Lane, past the identical houses with their identical lawns, until the neighborhood thinned out and the sidewalk turned uneven. Finally, Marcus said, "You didn't have to come." "I know. You could go back. Tell someone what she did. Someone would help you." Sophia looked at the cracked sidewalk under her feet. "She's been doing it for 4 years," she said quietly. "Nobody helped me then." Marcus didn't have an answer for that. They kept walking. By the time the sun started to drop, they'd reached the edge of downtown, the part of the city most people drove through without looking. An old bus depot, a shuttered laundromat, a parking structure with half its lights burned out. Marcus stopped outside the parking structure. "3rd level," he said. "It's dry. Warmer than the street." Sophia nodded like this was normal. They found a corner spot behind a concrete pillar. Marcus had a sleeping bag. He gave it to her. She started to protest. He shook his head once and sat down with his back against the pillar, his jacket pulled tight. "In the dark," he said, "what was it like before she got like that?" Sophia thought about it. "I don't think there was a before," she said. "I think I just kept hoping I was wrong about her." Marcus nodded slowly. "I used to do that too." She looked at him. "With who?" "My uncle took me in after my parents were gone. I thought, at least I have somebody. Then one day I came home and the locks were changed and my stuff was in a trash bag on the porch." Silence. A car moved somewhere far below them. A pigeon shifted on a beam. "Why were you begging on that street?" Sophia asked. "Specifically that street?" "Random," he said. "I walk until I find somewhere that doesn't feel hostile." He paused. "Your porch had flowers." Sophia almost laughed. It came out strange, cracked and surprised. Because she hadn't laughed in so long she'd almost forgotten what it felt like. "I planted those," she said. "I know," he said. "Nobody who hated that house would have planted flowers." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she pulled the quilt out of her backpack and threw half of it across his lap. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The next morning, Sophia was already awake when a pale gray light started coming through the open sides of the parking structure. Marcus was still asleep. She sat with her knees pulled up, watching the city start to move below. Her mind was already working. She thought about Marcus's hands the night before, when he described washing dishes at a restaurant, carrying crates, fixing a roof once for a man who then refused to pay him. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't broken in the way she'd expected. He was just someone who'd been failed by everyone who was supposed to catch him. "I know that feeling," she thought. When he woke up, she had a plan. "There's a distribution warehouse on Kellner Street," she said. "I walked past it 100 times. They always have a sign. Day labor, cash." Marcus rubbed his face. "They won't hire me. Look at me." "You have good hands," she said. "And you show up. That's more than half the people they'd hire." He looked at her like she was saying something in a language he'd never heard before. They went. The hiring manager, a thick man named Dale, who had a coffee stain on his shirt and zero patience, took one look at Marcus and started shaking his head. Sophia stepped forward. 3 days, she said. "Give him 3 days. If he's not your best worker, I'll apologize in writing." Dale squinted at her. "Who are you?" "The one making sure you don't miss out on someone reliable." Dale stared. Then he pointed at Marcus. 3 days. Don't be late." Outside, Marcus stopped walking. "Why are you doing this?" Sophia kept moving. "Because someone should have done it for me." He stood there for another second. Then he followed. The 3 days turned into a week. The week turned into a month. Marcus showed up every morning before the doors opened. He learned every section of the warehouse. He lifted, sorted, counted, carried. When other workers cut corners, he didn't. When Dale needed someone to stay late, Marcus raised his hand. At night, Sophia taught him things. They'd pooled their cash. Her savings from small gigs she'd done before, his first paychecks, and rented a room above a dry cleaner on M Street. It was small enough that you could touch both walls if you stretched your arms out. The radiator made a sound like a dying animal. The window faced a brick wall. They loved it. At night, Sophia spread notebook paper on the floor and taught Marcus to read with more confidence. He could read basic things already, but slowly, haltingly, and he'd been embarrassed by it his whole life. She went at his pace, never rushed, never made him feel small. He sat with his tongue between his teeth, working through words. When he got a hard one right, he'd look up and grin, big, unguarded, like a kid. She'd look back like she was seeing something that had always been there, just buried. One night, he was practicing writing his own name. His handwriting was unsteady, large, the letters leaning like they were falling into each other. He stared at it and said, "Looks stupid." "It looks like you're learning," Sophia said. "Which is better than not." He was quiet. Then, "Nobody ever sat with me like this." She didn't say anything back. She just pressed the pencil back into his hand and pointed at the next word. But her throat was tight and she had to look away so he wouldn't see. 2 months in, Dale promoted Marcus to floor supervisor. He came home and stood in the doorway. Sophia looked up from her book. He said I was the most reliable person he'd hired in 6 years. She stood up. He was trying to hold it together and failing. His jaw was working. His eyes were bright and wet. She crossed the room and hugged him, not carefully, not with any hesitation. Hard, like she was trying to make sure it was real. He held on. Outside, someone honked. A train went past. The radiator clanked. Neither of them moved. Back on Clover Ridge Lane, Diana's life was quietly dismantling itself. The neighborhood had a long memory. People talked. The woman who gave away her stepdaughter to a homeless man on the porch. The story moved from one house to the next, warping a little with each retelling, but the core of it stayed the same. Diana stopped getting invited to things. Women she'd known for years crossed the street when they saw her. Her book club quietly removed her from the group chat. She told herself she didn't care. She cared deeply. And the money was getting bad. There was a loan she'd taken, secured against documents she didn't have full rights to sign. The lender, a man named Garrett, who wore too much cologne and smiled with his eyes closed, had started calling twice a day. Then he started coming by. Then one Thursday morning, he showed up with a man in a suit. Diana opened the door and immediately tried to close it again. The man in the suit held up a document. "Ma'am, the county has an interest in this property. We're going to need you to step outside." By the time Sophia and Marcus drove down Clover Ridge Lane that afternoon, it was almost over. They weren't there for any of it. They were there to pick up a box of Sophia's things she'd remembered leaving in the hall closet, a box her neighbor, Miss Clara, had called her about. The one who had a spare key. They turned onto the street and saw the cars, the suits, the papers, the neighbors standing on their porches watching. And in the middle of it, Diana, smaller than she remembered, standing in the driveway with her arms crossed over her chest, her eyes moving from face to face, finding no one who was going to step in. Marcus pulled over. They sat in the car. Sophia watched Diana for a long time. She watched her turn, finally, and see the car. See Sophia's face in the passenger window. Diana walked over. She walked like it cost her something. Her chin was up, but her hands were shaking. Sophia got out of the car. They stood 3 feet apart on the sidewalk they used to share. "Sophia." Diana's voice had a crack in it. "I need help. I don't have anyone." "You had me," Sophia said. Not loud. Not angry. Just clear. Diana's chin dropped slightly. "You gave me away," Sophia said. "To a stranger on the porch. Because you decided I wasn't worth keeping." Diana was crying now, small, tight tears, the kind that come when someone realizes they've lost something they thought was disposable. Sophia let the silence sit. Then she turned to one of the men with folders and said, "Do whatever the law requires, but handle it with some dignity, please." The man nodded. She got back in the car. Marcus looked at her. He didn't say anything. She stared straight ahead. Her hands were still. Her face was still. But her jaw was tight and he could see the line of it working. He reached over and put his hand over hers. She took a breath. They drove away. 8 months later, they got married on a Saturday in October. A courthouse ceremony. Miss Clara as witness. A courthouse clerk who said, "Congratulations," like she meant it. A bouquet of flowers Sophia picked from a corner bodega, yellow and white, still wrapped in plastic. After, they stood on the courthouse steps. Marcus looked at her like he was still surprised she was real. She looked at him like she'd stopped being surprised at exactly the right moment. "I have something for you," he said. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a thin bracelet, silver, with a small engraved plate. She looked at it. Not alone anymore. He'd had it engraved at a shop on Mott Street. The woman at the counter had asked what to put on it, and he'd stood there for a long time before he said those 3 words. Sophia pressed her lips together. She let him put it on her wrist. "You know what I think about sometimes," she said, her voice low. "What?" She thought she was getting rid of a burden. Sophia looked at the bracelet. "And all she actually did was set me free." Marcus nodded slowly. "She threw away the best thing she had." "That's not your loss," he said. Below them, the city moved, taxis and bikes and strangers going everywhere. 2 people who had been left by everyone who was supposed to stay. Standing in the October sun. Still here. Still standing. The woman who gave her away is still paying for what she lost. The girl she gave away stopped counting her losses a long time ago. And the homeless man nobody wanted to let inside, found the only door that ever truly opened for him.